like no one is going to give you your rights. You'd better know them yourself. And that's how I knew all my rights as a wife, as a mother, as a woman in business, in everything. What is liya wa ish اللي عليا? So that is also what enabled me to say, hey, bro, let's go.
It's Omani Women's Day, and we've brought a panel of women to discuss what it's like being an Omani woman, their identity, and their experiences. To my right, we have Samia Al-Shaeli, who is an entrepreneur, a bank employee, and a social media influencer. Next, we have Sara Al-Balushi, who is a mom and also an interior design student at college. Next, we have Ghaya Al-Barwani, who is the first Omani certified master coach. And then we have Dr. Yasmin Al-Balushi, who is the senior advisor at the Royal Academy of Management. So welcome all, and thank you for joining us here today. So we will start with the first question. Could you tell the group, what does being an Omani woman mean to you?
I'm trying to be polite. Very, very polite. You're asking for Omani women what it's like, what it means to us to be Omani women. It's kind of a redundant question, isn't it? What are your thoughts?
I think what I will relate to will be more of, the word Omani woman. What words can it bring to your mind, and how you will describe? What are the words that you use to describe? Because it boils down to our identity, as we are all Omani women here in the room. So, as Ghaya said,
to me, I feel smartness, well-educated, modest, very attached to the culture, to the heritage.
I disagree. I feel we're a spectrum of people. We're not the same. So you'll have a modest one, and you'll have the smart one. You'll have the one who is depressed even. She's not any less Omani. And it could be a person who didn't pursue their career and stayed at home and took care of the kids. Yes, they don't have their master's degree, but they're still well educated and have skills in other ways of living, That's my point of view.
And the beauty of it is that our heritage is not just our generation. It's generations and generations of strong Omani women with their own opinions as well.
Yes. Yeah.
So every one of us you ask, we'll just sit there and say, I don't know what it means, I guess.
One thing I do agree with is our past and our history taught us as Omani women to be independent. That one thing I do agree that majority of us do carry is independence.
Can you elaborate on that?
For example, women started working, creating textile ages ago, centuries ago. It's nothing new. And our jobs wasn't only to be the moms or be certain way. It's also we can be providers as well from centuries ago. It's nothing new for us. Like for many countries, it was no. It's the man who brings the food on the table while the woman stays at home. But for women, as a Omani woman, it was never that way. We always had options.
I recently came from Salalah, and guess what? It turns out that the Queen of Sheba was from there. So we are strong women.
I think, and if you look at it from the lens from outside Oman and how people see Omani women, and I will tell you about some conversations I had with people around the world, they always see them grounded and colorful. For some reason, people use the word colorful for Omani women, maybe because it's our culture, costume, I don't know, but they say that you are different than the rest of the region because you guys are colorful. So I think it boils down again to our heritage, to our culture. And for us, women took the lead centuries ago, where a lot of Omani people were in trades, in the sea, and then the woman was in charge of taking things. So the leadership qualities that you have in women are really, really strong.
I feel it impacts the way we live even today. The rules that are set and governmental rules are set for women and everything to give us opportunities in life to go further. I feel like some countries who didn't have that in their history are still like working on it while we're well advanced.
Exactly. And I think this is one of the debates when, a lot of people, around Omani women, they always say, Doctora, come and do women empowerment. And say, I am totally against the word empowerment. We are already empowered. It's just how now we utilize the tools we were given, the stage we were given, the education we were given, the freedom we were given, the rights we were given, and utilize them in the right way. And that is our role now, to utilize all the empowerment given to us, as you said, compared to a lot of people around the world, and how to push that portfolio further.
I don't know if we were given empowerment, because I can tell you for a fact that in my family in the 1920s, when the Wall Street crashed, all the men lost their money because they had mortgaged their farms to the hilt, and it was the women who saved their behinds, let's just say. It was the wealth of the women. And even, for example, I come from the Zanzibari heritage, where we left Zanzibar to come back to Oman. And guess what? It was the women who fed and raised and made the money to keep the families together. Definitely. So if you turn around and say we were empowered, we had the power and we took it. It's our choice to take it and make use of it, or let it go. If we don't want it, it's okay.
So in today's world, we have different ideas of what the ideal Omani woman looks like. Do you fit this description? Why or why not?
As we said before, there is no specific way to describe an Omani woman. We're a spectrum of people. We have different personalities, different ambitions, different strengths, different weaknesses, and we come from different perspectives. There's not a specific way to perceive an Omani woman. But one thing I did agree on is majority of us are taught to be independent. That's the common factor there.
Adding to that, and I think I relate to this question a lot because I'm not a hijabi person, and I know I did use the word modest, but to me it has nothing to do with the ideal or like how we perceive Omani women or how they wear exactly, or to me I feel there's no such as an ideal of or how an ideal Omani woman looks like. There are so many successful Omani women out there, or mothers who are Omani mothers who are actually taking care of their kids at home. But to me, I feel like I am portraying myself as Samia, not like in a way like I have to wear something like to represent Oman or an ideal woman, as long as I stick to the values of Oman, and as long as I know how people perceive me, to me that is more than enough.
I don't think I have a picture of an ideal Omani woman. I cannot specify it, but I can talk about myself, whether I consider myself ideal. As an Omani woman, I try my level best to be the best role model for my family. Maybe I start with my kids before anybody else. And I think if I look about my role in an Omani family as a mother, again, it boils down to all the qualities we were talking about, like a person who is taking the lead, but at the same time grounded in the values and the culture, and having that balanced personality with the thought of the word. So she's thinking international, she's educated, she's bright, but then the values always become the family, the upbringing, the culture, grounded in that. And with that, she is trying to lead her word, whether the word is her community, her family, her country, whatever portfolio she's working with.
And that reflects exactly what we want from Oman Vision 2040, which is to be a global leading citizens of the world,
True.
while staying true to who we are.
True.
And if that is the ideal, then I think every woman in Oman is the ideal.
Have you ever felt like an outsider in Oman, and is there a specific story that comes to mind that made you feel this way?
I don't think there's anyone in this world who can ever claim that they don't feel like an outsider at some point in time in their life. I've worked with enough people to tell you that this is a common emotion that we all go through. The beauty that I find in my experience is that even when I feel like an outsider, I've got strong, beautiful women surrounding me to make me feel at home again. So that's how I perceive it.
For me, I think personally, I haven't had that feeling, a feeling that I'm an outsider. In fact, and I can relate it to experiences when I travel and come back, and the moment I just land here and I say that, finally home. And the moment I land in another world or in another land, it's always like, okay, I'm a stranger here. So just having that feeling, I don't think in Oman, in my land, I had that feeling that I'm a stranger. Yeah, the moment I just take off out of this land, anywhere around the world, here where the stranger hat will start appearing.
I feel that no one can ever control how you feel. Only you can do that yourself. So when you feel like an outsider, it's usually you telling yourself you feel an outsider. No one can control how you feel. You're always in control of yourself. There's things that can be controlled within yourself, and there's things you cannot be controlled. And how people make you feel, it can be controlled within you.
Yeah, maybe it's very much linked to the experiences that people go through, or their journey at a certain time where they started feeling this.
Yes, and I did go through it at one point, because I did live abroad at one point when I was in middle school. And when I came back here, my first language was English, not Arabic anymore. So a lot of people used to pick on me, make fun of me about my accent and everything, and I did not feel like I was part of the society. And then I learned, I rehabilitated myself. I learned how to speak Arabic again, of course, because it's my mother language. But I realized the only person who was taking it personally was me, and probably the other people who were picking on me or bullying me about it, they had their own personal issues. So it's a reflection on how they're behaving according to their experience, and I was taking it personally when I could have just not taken it as much in deep.
If I can add to that, being on social media, like I get judged like it's nobody's business. But to me, sometimes I feel like people find it hard to adapt to the current Omani modern life that girls our generation are living. Not touching base on the culture, not touching base on the society, but I mean just in general the modern lifestyle that our generation is living. But as I said, I've never felt like an outsider, but sometimes it touches me when people judge you based on how you live on social media, or how you're dressed, or how you pursue life. So yeah.
And maybe I was just relating to your story, and I remember years back when it was almost 20 years when I did my PhD, and my daughter was with me at that time, and she was in schools abroad. And when I brought her back, she had the resistance to sit in the schools here, and she wanted to go to boarding school back, and she kind of felt outsider maybe at that point of time.
I did as well.
But now I understand, because she felt that she was different. But maybe those experiences, this is what I was saying, maybe the whole issue about feeling home or not depends on the experiences you go through.
Yeah.
I didn't feel it because I was raised here, I was educated here, but if you are taken a certain chunk of your life out of the country, especially if you are a child and then you are brought here, maybe takes you time to feel that, no, I belong here. So maybe now I can relate that. And after some time, and I was like no, you continue, and you will be exploring, you will be having some friends. And then things went back to normal. And then, you know, like the whole feeling that I belong here, this is home, this is where I am. So it's very interesting to hear your version of it, because, you know, I never thought of it. And this is why I was saying that I never had that feeling. But maybe the other generation, especially those who had another experience out of Oman and then coming back, they might have had it. I mean, though I went for my postgrads outside and came back, but I was mature enough, and I had my kids at that point of time, so maybe I was already grounded with the whole culture here, raised up here. So it's very interesting to see the other part of it, yeah, you know, when you feel like you are an outsider.
Could you discuss with the group the biggest differences between the way you live your life versus the way your grandmother or mother lived?
I have a much easier life.
Technology, cell phones, cars. It's a lot easier
GPS.
to get to your destination to fulfill your needs than you did back then.
To me, I feel personally, talking about my personal experience in life and how my mom tells me her past stories, like every time has its own beauty, has its own challenges. Let's be honest, we still have challenges up to this day.
Yes.
However, the challenges before were far worse. It did get easier by time, alhamdulillah. So I do see like the changes that have happened throughout the year, whether my mom's life, my life, and my grandmother's life. So to me, I feel like nowadays life has become so much easier.
It depends. I mean, like, yes, physically it gotten easier, but mentally it's gotten a lot more straining on the mind. It is a lot faster. It is a lot hectic. We don't have time. I mean, for me, just as a mom and a student, I wake up 4 o'clock in the morning to study, go to get ready, get my kids ready, and thank God I have independent kids who can like make their own breakfast at least. Go to school, I go to school, finish my project, come back, do homework with them. I do my homework, prepare dinner, go back to doing homework, go to sleep, and it's a cycle. It's a full day thing. I can't catch a break. And this is with a supportive system around me.
Yeah.
Still.
Adding to that, again, I am a banker as well. I'm a mom as well. So a banker, a mom, and I do social media. Apart from that, I own a salon. And the reason why I said it's easier, because I have like a support, like a support system. I have my sisters around me. My mom is also around me. Nannies now make a huge difference. And let's not talk about nurseries. So that's why I said, comparing to like the past life of my mom's, I mean, she had to raise 7, 8 kids by herself without like having a support system. But why I said it's much easier for me, I'm a banker, I'm a mom, I'm on social media, I have 2 side businesses, and yet I am managing. So to me, I feel it's all about time management and again having the support system around you.
Interesting. I think I love the conversation that you had, and yes, we moved forward, and lots of things around us are much easier in life. We can commute now on our own. We have job. We earn. We used to earn, of course. I mean, looking at me, and I know that we earned it in the past, but it's more. People are becoming more independent, more educated. Maybe we have to think the otherwise, and I agree with you. Maybe they had more luxury and time than us.
Yes, time is moving
and
really fast.
They had more peace of mind than us. I mean, I remember last night having a discussion with my daughter, and I said that I am just afraid that you have expectation of me as a grandmother that I had of my mother and my mother of her mother. They had more time, honey, and I don't have the same time. Maybe I'm waiting for my first grandchild, and I was telling her, I'm just afraid that you have expectation of me that I had of my mother, because being a professional person with several hats around me, whether I will be able to do that role that she is putting and portraying in her head, like I did for my mother and grandmother. And that is taking me to the question now, with all, maybe our life is easier. Yes, in the way it's easy, we have all the luxury life, we can be more independent, we can do things on our own, we travel, all that is fine, but yeah, it makes me wonder, like, maybe they had more luxury regarding time and family than we have, and I sometimes wish I had that luxury that I don't have it now.
Yeah, but the question is it because maybe you want to provide a better life than what your parents provided to you? Maybe you want to provide a better life to your kids, to their kids. To me, I feel this is what I'm doing to my kid right now. I am working double as my parents used to, because I want to provide better life than what I had. To me, like, my parents in the past did not think of like planting a hobby in me, though I had so many hobbies, but now I am investing that in my son. So maybe that is why I feel that you are working harder, you are working double, and you have less luxury time, is because you want to provide a better life for your kids.
Yeah, but again, it boils down to, what does a better life mean for them?
Yeah, I mean,
is it more quantity,
Educational,
quality time with them?
Yeah.
Is it more being there?
Yes.
So the equation and creating what everyone refers to as a balance is not always easy.
Yeah.
We try our level best. Definitely we are trying our best. Like professional ladies, all of us are struggling to have the best balance where things are perfect on both ends. But there are times of challenges where you feel that maybe the other side should have been more invested in at times than the other side, where we feel it is a better life from our lens.
Yes.
I don't know. When you ask me that question, I don't know, because I'm lucky enough to be, well, my great-grandmother's sister is the first Gulf national and the second Arab woman to get a PhD, Fatma Salim al-Ma'mariya. Her sister barely finished ibtidaiya, and she ran the family business. Her daughters, my mother, all of them worked as they took care of their families. So they had the same stresses with the expectation that they have to be the perfect wife, and they have to take care of the family, and they have to take care of the kids, and they have to take care of all of that. The luxury of maids, I'm lucky, alhamdulillah. It's generations, alhamdulillah. We've had housemaids, so this is not something new that I will come and say I have somebody helping me at home take care of my child, but it is something that's there. They had the same pressures that we do. What I will say is, in my opinion, the path that they led was tougher because they had to pave the road for us. And now I personally take it all for granted. I expect it to be there. I don't expect my mom to be there for my kids. She's not. And she always told me from day one, if you're going to bring your kids, make sure they come with their nanny or you come with them. I'm not taking care of those kids.
Yeah,
so that for me is a norm. I'm expecting it, and guess what? I'll do the same with my daughter. I'm not gonna even pretend.
The norm that you are talking about, I think if we look at from a general perspective, it might not. It was an very exceptional cases, because in the past, very few people had that norm.
Like my grandmother used to sell goods and snacks to the neighborhood kids from the house.
Exactly, because she had to work. They were working.
Yeah.
They were not sitting at home and doing nothing. Even then, they were supplementing the income of their husbands.
Exactly.
Yes.
They were doing something and taking care of the home. In actual fact, God bless the robo vacuum cleaner that's there, the washing machines, the luxuries that we live, they make my life a lot easier.
We are not denying the advantage of having it. what we are talking about, that maybe that was not the usual norm that we know about our grandmothers and fathers, grandmothers and mothers, because majority of people were not working as professional, like in the bank or a professional coach. You have been the first woman coach. Who was a coach before in Oman and certified ICF? Come on, I was the first dean and in the private higher education. And I mean, were there people who were sitting on that chair prior to that and having the same hat and making the same dish? So what I'm saying that they did work, but maybe at skills which were not the same skills where we have now. Competition, expectations, advancement, learning, growing, and you have to be ahead of your game. That itself is so much draining. And that is the new reality that I'm talking about. I'm not talking about whether we worked or we didn't work. There were people doing some work, and we acknowledge that, but it was not the common threats that we had at that point of time. Majority of women they were given the responsibility, as I said before. Omani men, they worked in the trades, and they work in the sea, they work in the farming, and women were backing them up with helping them around, helping them in the farms, helping them with the kids, and sometimes helping them even with doing certain trades just to raise the family and income. But was it the same skill that we have it at the moment? And I doubt that, because what I was referring to is when Sara asked this question is how you compare it. When I compare it, I compare even what was the advantage they had, which we wish we have now. And maybe I'm looking at it from that lens, because it's easy for us to say, yes, it's easy. Our life is easy. It's going much better. I have vacuum and I have cleaner and I have the TV and internet. I can see what's happening in Australia in a click of a button. Where I don't know, يعني even been there ولا لا في الباس. لكن what I want to say that. What was the difference if I put the hat where they are standing now, the time for the family, the focus on the family and the kids? Honestly, I can't say that it's the same equation.
The equation would be on, for me, it's not on the skills or anything like that. It will be on the expectation. We have a lot more expectation on ourselves and from life that, I mean, I know I talk to my mom and she's like, God, why are you complicating things? She always tells me, why are you complicating things? And it's the same thing when I talk to not only my mom, my grandma, and all of them. They're like, why? ليش معقدتها? يعني it's simple.
So you're answering me yourself.
It's simple.
That they're wondering why you have these questions.
Why do you have these expectations?
Yes.
Let it be. It'll happen. Life is good. And I'm like, yeah, when I make it good.
So it boils down to what you said earlier about that, yes, on one hand, it's making easy, but is it on the other hand, it's getting more complicated because of the expectations that others have of us? No.
The next question is, could you tell us about an incident in your life where you thought, this wouldn't have happened if I was a man?
Does anyone want to go first?
Go ahead.
Please go ahead.
Okay, out of my experience, once I was in a lot of pain. I went to the hospital. They dismissed me first time. Second hospital, dismissed me. I went to multiple clinics. They all dismissed me. Till after almost a week later of me going to the hospital and telling them I'm in a lot of pain, one doctor, God bless him, checked it out and told me I needed a surgery immediately. And if you check out statistics, and there's studies out there, that women's pains majority of the time dismissed in hospitals or postponed comparison to men. I've checked out multiple places and turned out it's true. It does happen worldwide. When it comes to women pain, it's always been treated later because most likely we're labeled as emotional throughout history.
That's a very interesting aspect of it.
Does anyone have an input?
No, I know that statistic. I just never met someone who actually lived it. And that to me, it's very interesting because now, before that, when I first read the question, I was like, this is ridiculous. There was never a time I wish this wouldn't have happened to me if I was a man. Okay? In fact, it's always an advantage that I'm a woman. I get out of a lot of tickets because I'm a woman. I get away with a lot of things. But now that you mention this, I'm starting to quickly go through the Rolodex of my, the whole reel of my life. Has it happened? I read the statistic. I've seen it with other people outside of Oman, but this is the first time I hear about it here.
Apparently it happened. And I've seen even people who comes to even child labor, they would actually postpone the medication or not been approached at the right time for them to take the medication to help them cope.
Interesting.
Never heard of it.
Like I said, no, I did read that statistic and I know it.
It's biased because I'm the first person you hear it from, but this is out of my experience.
Interesting.
I think for me, if I want to recall an incident where I wish I was a male, not a woman in my society, was my journey has taken many phases, and there were more men around me than women. The phases where I was developing, and there were times and many times where it was me only, the woman, and those were the moments where I wish I was a man, because I wouldn't have the same luxury of going and networking with them outside, or they will continue a meeting and then they say, let's just go and have dinner and continue over dinner, or let's just get coffee in one of the coffee shops and continue discussing that. And you wish that you are with them, but then because of also some social norms, you wouldn't be able to do it. And maybe those are the slight moments where you felt like, I wish I'm a man so I can just run with them in the car and then just go for the coffee. Maybe this is not happening now, Ghaya. I can see you looking at me, and I'm talking about time in the 80s and 90s, where I had to work with men, and it's not easy for you to be the only woman, especially if you are in a board or you are working with them in a management team, and then you felt that somebody, okay, they discuss, they argue, but then they go out and then they come back and they are good friends again, and you can't be friends with them because it means having a football match with them, or just going for a coffee, رحلة and picnic somewhere and camping, and of course you won't do that. And here are the times when I was younger where I said, I wish I was a man so I can go with them and also buy in their thoughts, buy in their agreement with me and all that, because the only venue I had is that meeting room. And whether I convince them or I don't convince them, I don't have any other opportunity outside of that wall. So maybe when you asked the question, Sara, the only time that came my mind maybe was in particular that moment.
Yeah.
I've been very privileged. Very privileged. One, I was brought up with boys in my family, and I could always basically take a cousin or a brother or whatever to one of the camping trips that the people have to go on. And I would just bring him along. For him, it's an outing, ببلاش, paid for, عادي, يلا خلا نروح. And I've always had that ability to, maybe I never thought of it, but yes, I was accommodating and I was using the resources I have. The only time now that I think of it that I thought this wouldn't have happened if I was a woman. So when I was growing up, I went to a private school. So it wasn't religiously focused. So my father made us study religion during the summer vacations. And I finally thought, yes, I'm done. And then he gave me a whole set of books. Here are books on the rights of women in Islam. And I was like, I hate this. If I was one of the boys, I wouldn't have to do all of this extra homework that everybody else is. But
So
I
was
have
it
to.
only for the girls?
It was special. He's like, no one is going to give you your rights. You'd better know them yourself. And that's how I knew all my rights as a wife, as a mother, as a woman in business, in everything. What is liya wa ish اللي عليا? So that is also what enabled me to say, hey, bro, let's go.
Yeah.
I'll pay, let's go. Because I had that background, I didn't see it as an impediment. I knew where my boundaries were and how to bend things to make them work for who I am. So I was lucky in that way. Like I said, I when I have these conversations, I always feel like I'm overly privileged.
No, listen, I was grown up with a lot of boys around me in the family, and I do relate to that. But when it comes, when you are working in a place in the society, there are certain cultural norms. We cannot deny that. And there are certain expectations of those norms that we have to follow. And if you come to leadership positions and role, you will understand the basic thing in leadership is networking, and your network is your net worth. And when you work in an area where you have more men than women, or you are the only woman, which what I was referring to in many instances, I was the only woman, and you can network within the work scenarios. Outside the work scenarios, you don't have that privilege because of the cultural norm that is, I mean, of course, you know your rights, your duties and all that, but you also respect the cultural norms that you live in. And because of that, maybe you cannot do that networking, and therefore you are losing an opportunity that can come your way as a result of that network. And this is what I was referring to. And I totally agree with you, Yani. At the end of the day, maybe those are one or two incidents where you feel like, I wish I was a man, because if we go to the match, we'll get gel together, and me and this guy who are disagreeing, we might become friends and all that. But we didn't have that opportunity. So those are the moments. But overall, of course, when it comes to you being a Omani woman, we are all proud, and I think this is why we are here today. And in fact, if I was not a woman, I wouldn't have had the tag of the first Omani woman dean. It would have been any other man, and it would have been a dean. And by default, they are there. In fact, we are privileged, right? Now, the fact that I came after all these years and I was appointed a dean, and then I got the tag that she's the first Omani woman. So they're celebrating it. Have you ever heard of a first Omani man dean, or a first Omani ICF coach? No, they don't acknowledge them. So, you know, like, it boils down that we are proud of being Omani women, but maybe the incidents which we were referring to are those times where it felt like, oh, I wish I was a man here, because it would have changed the equation for that particular scenario, like finding a job or being treated on the spot. And so maybe that was the whole conversation about. But yeah, it's interesting. I mean, if we said, I might remember more incidents where I say, I wish I was a man here.
For me, like, for example, I have 2 girls. I come from family, all girls. We're 3 girl sisters. We don't have any boys in the family. So I feel like there's a pressure also from outside the society for me. Like, since my sisters are not married, so I'm the only one who's married. They're like, oh yeah, when is the boy coming? And it's not in my control. Okay, it's not my control at all.
They never ask the man the same question.
They never ask him. Like, they never ask my husband. It's always me. And then I feel like there's a lot, they put a lot of pressure on women reproducing into society.
Yeah.
At certain age, marriage, everything, they have to be married by a certain age. And I feel like it's a lot less pressure for a man than it is for a woman.
Forgive me. My dad forced my brothers once they reached 28. ما عندي ريايل يجلسوا في البيت. تتزوجوا. You have to get married at 28. So I was the one who was privileged. Oh, انت البنية انت المشرف. You know, you are
I come from a place where they don't really do
you're
that
more
for
than
family.
privileged. You know, you stay as long as you want. When you are ready, my love, you can get married. My brothers were like, no, time for you to get married. And I was like, woohoo. Like I said, I've had a lot of privileges for being a woman.
For me, it's completely opposite. Like, I'm lucky, like, my family never pressured me. I actually made that choice myself to get married early. But, like, my sisters, they never pressured them. And a lot of women in my family do get married after the age of 30, even close to 40, even they still get married during that time, whenever they're ready to do it. So there's not much pressure, but I realize a lot of my friends do go through this pressure from society in general. It's not necessarily from family, but from society itself.
So it boils down again to what you refer to expectations and all this,
Yeah.
and social norms and expectations. Sometimes يعني pressure us in that zone.
Okay, moving on to the next question. What does the concept of shame or aib mean to you, and does it have different meanings to men and women in your opinion?
I never was brought up with the concept of aib. It was more, is it ethical or is it not? Okay? So what would be shameful is if I do something that is unethical, rather than it's aib because it's a societal norm. Then you ask the question about, is it different from men and women? I've worked with a lot of clients, and when it comes to shame, usually there is no pattern that you can put for gender, but usually the men, it will be around being able to provide for the family, being able to support them, being able to protect the people in their lives. With women, it's usually being able to care for and be there for the people that they want. But again, putting it that way, I've also met men who feel ashamed because they're not able to care for their families and the people that they care about. And for me, whenever I listen to people talk about shame, I know what they love and what they care about. And it's a great opportunity for them to grow out of when they give themselves a chance to actually be open about it.
Very interesting. I think I relate to you that for me, the concept of aib is always about, is it ethical, not ethical? Is it something that is relevant to your value system, or it's not relevant to the value system?
Yes.
يعني I would rather always keep it from that lens than what are the norms and expectations of culture imposed by people on people, because most of the time it's not relevant to religion, not relevant to any other norms. It's more of cultural, societal, let's say, norms. So but if it is something to do with your value system, relevant to your own culture, society, religion, beliefs, and you feel that, is this ethical or not, here where you make your judgment. Yeah.
I actually did not want to elaborate on this question, but since everyone's throwing something on the table, so to me, personally speaking, I think it's about your background, how you were raised, and how your parents grew you as a person. Like, to me, since childhood, we were always mixed. So growing up, mixing up in the organization I work for right now, or being in sales, going out there, meeting men, male or female clients, some people perceive that as aib. Like, you are out there having coffee with a male client, some people perceive that as aib. So as I said, so it actually depends on your background. As long as she said it is ethical, so to me, I feel it is no aib at all.
People need to do whatever they need to do for themselves, as long as they're not hurting anyone.
Yes.
So I don't really want to, just like she said, I don't like labeling things as aib or shame unless it's unethical.
I'm happy that you shared your thoughts, because, you know, like, looking it from that lens and relating it to your work, it's interesting that when you are reflecting into on the whole issue, that how they see it as an aib, you are meeting a client, whereas it's part of your profession as a person who is working in sales or marketing, and you have to meet your clients and all that. Yes, exactly, regardless of their gender. So it's great that now you are relating it to another concept which is very much relevant to your work. But it's nice to hear your perspective on the whole issue.
Like even on social media, sometimes people like ask me, how is your husband okay with the fact that you're out there on social media? You're not a hijabi. What is going on? Where is he in the picture? But to me, I know so many others who are the same. It just depends on how you perceive the aib and not the aib part. As long as you're not hurting people, you're not hurting yourself. You're just doing you. So yeah, like this touches me a lot on social media, especially the aib and not aib parts.
What I find interesting, you keep referring to the fact you're not a hijabi. And by the definition of the word hijabi, none of us are. None of us in this room are. What I find interesting is that I had to have a dialogue with someone to encourage them to come up with me. And they've got a brilliant mind. And they wear a niqab. She's a mutanaqiba. So she covers her face. And she was like, will the corporate world accept me? I'm like, God, I would love to have me and you together in the corporate world to show the power that is within us as human beings, as women, irrespective of what we look like.
Yes.
Yeah.
What
and
we wear,
that's what matters.
Yeah.
That is what really, truly matters. In fact, she is one of the people who's working with me on Sidra, which you mentioned about. And I was like, thank God you're here. And she was like, why? Because I've got women from across Oman. And they need to know that they can own their power no matter how they decide to look like on the outside. There is no shame on the other side of the spectrum of deciding, you know what, I like covering my face. I don't have to expose my face in order to be a successful Omani woman.
What aspects of Omani culture do you find most empowering for women?
We've been brought up, since school days, that, and one of the characteristics of the Omani woman is, Omani people in general, is we are very united. And I feel like that does apply to us even as adults. For example, if a scenario happens, a series of unfortunate scenarios happen, the people will come together and raise and put light onto the occasion and support the victims, for example, or the needy, or I don't know if I should be mentioning certain topics, so I don't want to mention it, but we always come together to be there for each other at the end of the day. And I love that about the Omani culture.
What I love about the Omani culture is how every country I go to, the moment I say I'm Omani, they say, oh my God, the most kindest people ever, the sweetest, you are in your own bubble, you don't like to elaborate, like you're in your own bubble, you have your own character. So I love the fact that kindness is linked to the Omani culture and how harmless we are and how sweet we are. So I believe, yeah.
I think for me, if I just relate to what you say, I think with His Majesty laid out that we are friends of all, enemy of none. And that is what stands for the Omani, identity and culture here. And I think that part of the culture is always keeps us who we are. And this is why people find us kind, humble, and they connect very fast with us.
It's historical. I mean, think about it. Sayyidina Muhammad, alayhi salatu wassalam, when he went and he just asked the Sultan of Oman at the time, will you allow your people to become Muslims? Of course. That acceptance of people, no matter who they are, is part and parcel of what and who we are as a nation. And even if you look at historical books from before Christ, you'll find that when they pass through our lands, they find people who are magnificent. We are a magnificent nation. We have an amazing culture, and it's rich in heritage and history and beauty. And I wouldn't trade it for the world. I'm lucky to be Omani. Full stop.
Last question of this panel. How has your perspective of the first question changed after this conversation? The first question being, what does being an Omani woman mean to you?
It didn't change. I think it emphasizes it more, and we feel more proud because, just having the conversation and looking at different layers and different lenses and the experiences that people bringing on the table, I feel prouder that I am an Omani.
When I first started coaching, they always told us, find your essence energy, who you are in your Ensa. And for me, it's joyful curiosity. And this conversation and the way I perceive myself as an Omani woman and all Omani women goes back to we are joyful. It opens up our joy, the colors that we wear, the way that we are just pure joy. And my answer is still, yeah, I guess now I've thought about it. Thank you.
Now, each question that you asked, every person here had a different perspective, which I respect. So to me, it just added value to the fact that we are all thankful for the fact that we are proud Omani successful women. Yeah.
Especially from the last question, my point was we always come together united. And I feel like no matter what, end of the day, I met you today, and still end of the day, if I see you struggling right now, your car is stuck, our humble Omaniness, I would still take her home. I'd be like, yeah, let's go, they'll take you home. I won't leave a woman out in the street. And we're going to be there for each other. And that's what I love about the Omani culture and being Omani.
Thank you for listening to our dialogue about the identity and experiences of Omani women. Share your suggestions for future discussions on our Instagram @omanfm.om.